We've got like an amazing kind of final closing talk from Facebook Gaming Services, integrating Facebook Gaming Services and how to leverage Facebook login for gaming. That's coming from Alessio Aristide, which is from Facebook Partnerships, and Jithin Rao from Awesome Prototype. Don't forget, of course, that our incredible sponsors, our platinum sponsors of Facebook, MoPub, Xsolla. Gold is Stillfront, Google Firebase, Luna Labs, and silver is Unity and Adjust. And today's developer toolkit track has been kindly sponsored by Denuvo by Erdetto. So guys, thank you so much for coming today. It's been an absolute bonkers day, as you've probably seen or checked into at some point or another, but we're really, really happy to have you. And we're really excited for you to share with us some information about integrating Facebook gaming services. Over to you. Thanks.
Thanks, Kelly. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the last session of the day. So very 2021 question. Do you see my screen? Thanks for having us. It's always a pleasure to be on the stage, on this virtual stage. So today I'm going to share, as Kelly was mentioning, the latest news around the new SDK features that we developed specifically for games. Last time I was on the stage, I think it was October, we had just launched the gaming services features, which includes Facebook login for gaming, sharing, and new player finder features. And so I'm going to give you a bit of an update on where the features are at, what the progress has been. And we also have Jit from Awesome Prototype here, which is one of our early partners that tested the solution with us. So we'll get a chance to get a first-hand experience on the onboarding and how they developed their game features around some of our gaming services. So before I start, like during this VGC, there's other peeps from Facebook Gaming who took the stage before me, who shared a very comprehensive way of our vision in terms of how we're looking at the mobile gaming industry as an overall. So from insights and marketing perspective on where mobile gaming is going, as well as from monetization side. So you can check them out on demand. So do it. They're very, very, very interesting. So the last bit to close off is we'll talk about platform and on the tech side. In myself, I'm Alessio Aristide. I'm part of the strategic partnerships gaming team based in London, and we help developers with our team achieve better results with integrating with their games with the Facebook SDK. Both to reach new games, but to reach new users and to explore new platforms such as instant games, Canvas, and more recently, cloud games. So today I'll start by briefly mentioning some notions about our community and the importance of gaming as a vertical overall for Facebook and our vision for what's ahead. We'll then move on to talk about specifically gaming services with login with specific focus on FB login for gaming, which is basically the foundational layer for all the other social features, which we'll talk about later. We'll then have the pleasure to host Jit from Awesome Prototype for a chat on their experience on onboarding on these features, both in an early stage beta circa six months ago, and how is it going now. And then we'll close off with some details about how you can get involved, how you can get the features on your game. But first, let's take a history ride. Let's say on the gaming history. So I think whenever I check where we're at in terms of gaming history, it always makes me feel like a lot excited, very excited about working in this industry as a gamer, but also a bit nostalgic. I think at the beginning here, you see 1995 for me was like 1999, 2000. I was a 10-year-old spending an insane amount of hours on Harvest Moon and other early PS titles. But gaming was a nerdy niche, let's say. It was really a niche industry, a niche entertainment product. From a Facebook gaming perspective, instead, if we move kind of 10 years after, we started with launch of Canvas in 2007, so the Farmville era, and 2 years after the introduction of FB SDK for games, which basically revolutionized both the way games integrate social features and how people connect with each other on mobile games, as well as from a UA perspective overall, with everything that came after this multi-billion industry, multi-billion dollar e-commerce industry. We're now in a world like today, we're in a world where playing a game is a daily activity for more than 2.7, almost 3 billion users. So a lot of people. Esports racking up millions of viewers, and gaming started to be really that ubiquitous factor in our life, in our social life. So it's a great place to be, and a fantastic industry to be part of. From a Facebook perspective, I think our next big bet is the industry's big bet. So cloud gaming overall. The power of this technology of the playing, like how we will power up the playing experiences, is still to be figured out. We're figuring it out as an industry as we're talking. But in Facebook, our cloud gaming platform, we announced it a couple of months ago. It's currently US only, but it's already showing great results in terms of playing, watching, and connecting. So this triangle, these three strategic pillars, they're really pushing forward the industry and the gaming entertainment overall. And as we develop new products, these are as well the three strategic pillars that we are considering when building for the big community of millions of people that are interacting with gaming content, both in feed and specifically also in groups. When we talk about play, we talk about millions of people coming to play every day on Facebook, both on, as I mentioned before, instant games, canvas, and cloud games as well. On the watch side, we have a lot of people enjoying gaming content from their feed, interacting with creators and the communities behind them in very new and exciting ways. And lastly, the connect or share pillar is the strategic home of gaming services and login and all the SDK features. And it's really where we're trying to give developers deeper and more comprehensive tools to expand their user base, their player base organically, and it's also giving players new ways to connect with each other. So gaming services this is the strategic home of gaming services. And when we talk about gaming services, the first big pillar, as I mentioned in the beginning, is Facebook login for gaming. So this new version of login maintains the benefit of the classic login, of the login that we all know, while adding these incremental features that are specifically developed for games. So as with traditional login, players will be able to log in quickly with a couple of taps, but then the login itself will enable a series of features that we're building. The first one is Player Finder, which is new ways for people to connect with each other, even beyond their Facebook network of friends. And here the group will be very important, and we'll touch upon it briefly after. Sharing is another big factor, another big feature. So the possibility to share content on all the different Facebook family of apps, all the Facebook apps. So not only on Facebook, but also on Instagram, WhatsApp, and Facebook groups, and more to come. We have a lot of features that we're working on. Rewards is one, tournaments, where we're trying to build upon the success that this feature had on the organic side. So now, as a page or as a group, you can create tournament for the people to interact with this new engaging format. And we're trying to build ways to build this more natively within games. But let's start with the deep dive on login specifically. So as I was mentioning, this maintains the benefits of the classic version while adding some game-specific incremental features. So you still be able, the experience from a user perspective is kind of the same. So you would with a couple of taps, you're able to create an account. You're able to save progress and maintain kind of a coherent experience across different platforms, different apps and platforms, while as a user having total control of the information that you're sharing with the developer. Specifically, login for gaming is part of our broader effort to contextualize social experiences for different ecosystems. Whether you're interacting with a business or with the games, we want you to be really in control of the data that you're, as a user of the data that you're sharing with developers, and as a developer, to make sure that the experience of onboarding and requesting different permissions to talk with our APIs in the smoothest way possible. We know that login also it's widespread. The adoption of login is widespread across different genres. So with login for games being adopted with so many different games, we wanted to give developers and players the power to customize their player name and avatar. So make the experience more contextual to the game you're playing. So as you can see here from the screenshot, players will be able to select between their player name and their Facebook profile picture every time they log in, and customizing their experience, whether they're playing a more casual title, so you'll go potentially with the Facebook profile, or a more mid-core title where the need would be different. From a technical perspective, login is, let's say, suitable for all the major platform, and it's based on a very solid infrastructure. So first, it is based on a separate Graph API domain, which creates a stronger security and integrity. It's stronger from a security and integrity perspective. As I mentioned, it's also cross-platform, so it works on iOS, Android, Unity, and more platforms to come as well. And it also allows for cross-platform compatibility with web games on Facebook. So you could potentially have the cross-platform experience with web games on Facebook. But this is just the beginning. So once, let's say, you integrate login, this is, let's say, the first foundational layer to then be able to integrate with the other features we were mentioning, and we'll see some of them in depth now. The first one are player invites. So player invites is a new way for users to find new people to play with, both from their Facebook network of friends, but also from other buckets of value. Here you see, for example, people that are playing the game at the same time, but also people that are part of the same gaming group. And this is the first entry points to group that we're trying to integrate in a more sustainable and in a smoother way. Groups is one of the things that we hear. The importance of groups is one of the things that we hear the most from developers. Players are already kind of creating these bridges between the game and groups. For example, going to groups to ask for advice, to look for group, or to just brag about the progress in the game. And so we want to build those bridges in an organic way for player to enrich their experience and to create community around games. Another way we're trying to dissipate this kind of organic entry points to groups and to the other other surfaces is the gaming activity hub. When you create, as a player, when you log in for the first time with Facebook Login for Gaming, a gaming activity hub will be populated in your Facebook app. So this is a tab within your Facebook app, which will have all your player name that you selected and all the content that is gaming related, be it gaming groups, or games you play, or streamers you follow. So that's really the gaming home, your gaming home inside Facebook. And from here as well, you can also join different groups for the games from the games you're playing. One last mention to groups is that as a developer, you're able to select the group you'd like to show, as in this case, the screenshot on the right, to best recommend the group the most active or official group of your game. Last but not least, sharing. So sharing, which is a feature that allows people to share, as I mentioned, to share their content on all the different platforms. So not only on Facebook, but also on groups, on Instagram, and on WhatsApp. This happens on an API. Oh, sorry, it doesn't happen on an API, but happens on Dialog. So users are taken to the Facebook app with a quick app switch. They are able to create the content, to optimize it, and then go back to the app in a very smooth fashion. And we're seeing also great traction with this feature. So we're really excited about seeing how different games would integrate with this feature. Quick recap on what we talked about around gaming services. So login is the foundational layer. So it's the one that enables all the other features. We talked about Friend Finder and the groups integration within this feature. We talked about sharing and briefly mentioned about a brief mention about all the new features that we're working on, and look forward to this space for updates, as we're working very hard on shipping them as fast as possible. But now I'd like to introduce Jit to the table. Can you hear us, Jit?
Loud and clear.
Fantastic. It's a pleasure to have you. Jit is lead producer at Awesome Prototype, which, as I mentioned, is one of the I think the first in EMEA, the first game in EMEA with season 20, now season 21, that integrated the login for gaming. So welcome, Jit. It's a pleasure to have you. Tell us a bit about you, about Awesome Prototype.
So Awesome Prototype is core sports and strategy game startup from Berlin. It was established in 2017. But at the start of the company, it was established as a service company for gameplay prototypes. Fortunately, the first prototype itself became the first product to launch on the same year, and that's Season Pro Football Manager. From 2017 onwards, we have had 3 iterations, and right now we are on the latest iteration on Season 2021. At the start, the company was at least created a bunch of locals from Germany itself. So the game was soft launched majorly in Germany, and currently our loyal base is also in Germany. It's only in 2020 we started expanding to across Europe as well as Latin American countries. At the moment, we are not in Middle East and not in Asian countries yet, but that's new seas to conquer soon.
That's fantastic, and congrats on the launch of season 2021.
Thank you so much.
Fantastic to hear. Can you talk a bit about the integration? How did it go? Like from an onboarding perspective, from your perspective, how did the onboarding go, and what was your experience with integrating with Facebook login?
To be very honest, when the Facebook SDK team first pitched us the 2 use cases that they were tackling, and my team just came back and said, those 2 use cases are real. We have problems with it. The first one was the gamer login pitch, the feature pitch that the Facebook team did. We had use cases from our community itself, people saying that, okay, I'm a guy with family and I don't want to add someone else who I don't know at all to my account, right? I don't want to show my face to them. So there was always this problem that, okay, my profile showing to another person in the community who is not my friend, not my relative, no one to me, but yes, he plays a game that I would like to play. It's not comfortable so much. And we have had multiple use cases where people would say, okay, I'll add you to just add into the game. After that, we'll just unfriend ourselves, right? So it's a use case. It's a very valid use case. They wanted a bit of privacy for their profile, personal profile. And the second use case, I mean, Football Manager, I could call it as a niche when you compare to action football games, right? It's a smaller niche compared to that. In that, finding someone to play with you or with the same interest, it's really hard. And in that case, when you start a new Football Manager game, can you find different players from that niche? Yeah, that's even harder. It's just not possible. And before Facebook came with this pitch, how it happened was we were just pushing the community links further into the game so that they would come into the community and then start building a relationship over there. And then eventually they would add up and then they would start playing together, share secrets, share tips. And I know that they have taken it outside the Facebook community also to build, WhatsApp groups or small groups like that. But we knew that, okay, finding friends is just hard. And especially with a niche game, day 0 friend finding is at most needed. Otherwise, you don't get the players hooked in, right? And the game is quite deep. And with Pro Football Manager, we have like Premier League. One league runs for 2 weeks, right? And the depth of the game you can understand only in 2 weeks, which means it's a long time for them to even go to the depth of the game systems, and just not understanding, not helping on the early stages is just hard. That's where these 2 features looked potentially the right fit to solve that problems. And that's where we were like, okay, we are on board, let's do it, right? And when the Facebook SDK team came back with technical documentations, my team just went through it and said, like, just, it's not consuming our resources at all much. We could easily get it done faster. Being in a startup, we have our priorities, right? I mean, we cannot invest a lot of time in tech because we still need to run this service. But the implementation was smooth. I mean, it was not hard enough. It was quick. And the Facebook team was always there to help us and guide us through it. So it was super easy in terms of integration. we just had a couple of concerns when it was rolling out because we have a loyal base already established. How would that migration happen? How would the new users go in? As you said, we were the first ones to integrate. So if something breaks, what happens after that, right? So soft launch period across different time zones. The Facebook SDK team was there actually to help us. And there were a couple of small hiccups, but it was recovered super fast. And to be very honest, we slept well. We didn't have huge problems at all with it. Um, and that's the integration was rather smooth, and the rolling effects were coming in slowly, and we saw big potential out of it.
Yeah, that's fantastic to hear that, the use case was real. I'm a gamer myself, as I mentioned, and I face a lot of times the connecting with Facebook friends that might not be the best, the best thing to do in that to that extent. So definitely building something contextual to the gaming experience is something that is we're reaping the benefits of it. Like we're seeing that developers are really caring about that. But in the meantime, we see on the screen there is some of the stats of the success story that we published together. So it would be great to understand how, like from a metrics perspective, how did the gaming services features impact your bottom line?
But to be very honest, the metrics are already on the screen, right? I mean, you guys can already read that too. But just stepping back and then looking at that metrics, for us, all of those metrics indirectly is an effect of the gamer login as well as FinFighter together. Number one, just getting people to have their own gamer profile that gives a certain level of security that okay, I'm not exposing my family or friends to others, and that just exposed in to saying that okay, let me add up this guy from the community. So without compromising your personal account, adding more and more your friends, that itself gave an assurance it's okay to add more friends, it's okay to add the pro gamers of the community. So what we immediately saw, at least from the moment when the version rolled out, was that we had more session lengths or day 0 to day 3 retention numbers slightly shifting. And at first we were doubtful what's going on, and then we understood because they were coming in through the community and they were adding more experienced players from the community itself. They're getting onboarded with the complex systems in the game very early on. I mean, there is an academy system in it. There is a scout table system over there. They don't know how to train players inside the academy. And then pro players from the community who actually popped into the friends list, which they went into the community and asked, hey, who is this club? Can I add you up? It's very polite. You could see it. And then immediately they were onboarded with these complex features. And they said, okay, wait for it for 6 hours. You'll get an item. Use it like that. Use this item. This is the tip. When you see the star has become, I mean, the player has become this much trained, you should use him into your team. It started flooding. That's very critical when you look at retention from day 0 to day 3, because you're trying to know how deep this game is, right? And they are getting retained as well as the session length is also quite high. That means they're spending more time in it. That that's the clear indication. And a couple of weeks when you look into it, and suddenly you kind of see that okay, your conversion rate is increasing. That means they're trusting the depth of the game. They understand the need to push their limits. They want to go faster on certain areas, and they start to convert on that aspect. And then suddenly, when they trust that even more, you start to see more and more users from that time zone coming into place. And then you're like, okay,
The virality effect there,
the
the
virality
organic
is getting to effect.
distribution kind of
And
kicking again.
you could see it from the community. I mean, at least our community manager constantly comes back and says, Jit, I don't know whether this is a spam or not. I can see a lot of players who already have connections inside the community coming more frequently right now. Right. So you could already see the virality going in. Of course, data-wise also, you could see that this player is coming from an invite from one of the players who are already in the system. That actually gave us a huge uplift in the organic installs. And of course, because of the conversions, your average revenue per daily active users, that also started showing a push, which all the more shows that they got at least a taste of the game and its depth quite faster. And in today's age, where UA costs are skyrocketing because everyone is competing for the same audience, and on top of that, organic users, getting them on board, it's super hard. Um, I think tools like this just helps us to build a better community and just have better tools to build a better community.
That's super. That's fantastic to hear, especially like the effect on the revenue as well is definitely something very, very big. You mentioned community a lot, and I know you've been building this partner clubs, which is a feature developed around the concept of Friend Finder. So would love to understand how you thought about it and how is Friend Finder with player invites kind of helping you shape a specific feature for the game.
So to be very honest, the starting of this feature comes with a root of awesome prototype. It's there in the name. And then we prototype first, test it with our audience, and then see how we can take it further. So when we put in Friend Finder into season 20 at that point of time, it was just a friend list. You could just find a friend through the Friend Finder, come back and then play a friendly when you don't have your real matches and gain a bit of rewards from it so that you can build your team for the next big league match. What we instantly understood, as I said before, you could connect to pro gamers from the community, right? It's an instant push. Now, when you can get access to those, our first thought was, can we build a gameplay around it? And that's where it started. We started building a couple of features around it. We were thinking that, okay, in real life, I mean, at least for season 20, we always keep it as a real life comparison. In real life, every football club has a partner club or a friend club. Whenever there is one club's match, the other club's fans support this team. So we were like, okay, can we get that feeling into it? Because now when we can find a friend club, then it's much more easier, right? So we started building this feature. Now it is called as partner clubs, where there is a 6 slots of partner clubs you can assign to, and they have to be active, right? They can give you support for your next league match, and based on the level by which how experienced you are inside the game, the support increases, which means the fans would support you more for your next match, which means you get a bigger advantage in winning those matches. So the critical aspect came in like, okay, I have to maintain 5 clubs in that slots. If one of them don't do that kind of activity, I have to kick him out, which means I have a slot free. Can I get a new one? Oh, Friend Finder helps me with that. So immediately that, the game system started to plug in well with Friend Find feature. And it's not long ago we pushed this feature out. It just got launched with season 21 in December. Now, two months down, we are getting very good feedbacks back from it. We are kind of getting into a way where very strong clubs are collaborating with each other, and time to time, if one of them don't really play because of X reasons, they would just say, okay, I'm just going to get another club to play with me, right? So there is a huge activity among the gamers that we see. The same thing happens with even new players coming into the game. They're getting onboarded super fast. They say, I'm at level 3 in division. Can I get a division 3 club to play with me? My strength of the team is like that. We'll have a equal team and we can have fun playing friendlies, and I can support you for the next day. So I could bring in a lot of community stories like that, just threads of stories where a lot of managers or our players politely ask, can we collaborate together? Which actually is kind of funny and weird, as well as a happy moment for us that we have seen a couple of our managers before the coronavirus hit, going to club, having a drink, and then putting back into the community saying that, okay, we found them through Friend Finder, right? It's gratifying, but again, the feature is not so old. We just pushed it out only 2 months ago. We'll see how it takes us to the next level. I think it's evolving every day. It's evolving.
Indeed.
And we'll wait and see.
Yeah. Yeah, also on our end, it's a work in progress. Like we're co-creating these features with the industry. So, but it's fantastic to hear, for example, when you mentioned that it's useful when the intent is high. And as I mentioned in the beginning, I think especially the integration with groups, when when you're looking for group, when you're building your five, like I play a lot of MOBAs, and when you're looking for that fifth person, you need it right now. So in that specific moment, being able to expand and to tap into the audience of an entire gaming group, that's exactly where we think this feature will be useful. So it's fantastic to hear that it actually is then eventually down the line. Fantastic, Jit. Thanks so much for everything. I think I would close with one last question. What's next? What would you like us to build, and what it is that you're focusing on? What do we look after for?
So one of the biggest challenges, at least last year when we were going through, okay, how can we improve the social systems in Season Football Manager? We came to one particular feature. It might not be a big challenge for PC or console game development teams to do this, but in mobile, it's quite hard. The feature was streaming the game while doing a commentary on top of it. Because traditionally, any football lovers, they love having this pre-match discussions. What should be the strategy? What should be the lineup? What should be the tactic? And how it should play around. And then while seeing the match, yes, most probably it didn't play out the way they imagined it to be. And then you have a post-match. You can call it as analysis. Sometimes I call it as aggression because we see that a lot in the community too. There is a post-match analysis, right? And from our users, I mean, we have again stories from the community where players just grab their devices. If they have matched together, fortunately they were pulled in together, and they would sit together with two devices. They both are looking at it, and they talk to each other about that match, and then they have this huge arguments or discussions. And from our competitors, we have seen a lot of video footages where they actually have this conversation captured and they go live. And there are streamers who actually stream that out, and players, I mean, a lot of people want to watch it, right? That's the next challenge that we would like to pick. I mean, again, it's exactly like I said before, and you also mentioned it again. We are taking use cases from our community, from our LOL base. We are taking the exact use case that they want, and we are trying to put it in the best fit. And so I say streaming. That's the next big bet for us.
That's a dream. That's a dream.
Yes,
I mean,
that's a dream.
We started by mentioning, play, watch, connect. There's like this perfect triangle of someone playing and then connecting with people over watching other streamers and then joining the game. So that's definitely where we're headed. It's great to have you on board for this fantastic adventure. So thanks so much, Jit, for your time and for your great insights. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
So at this point, I wanted to touch briefly on how to get the gaming services features, and specifically, Facebook logging for gaming. At this point, the features are like you need. First of all, you need the Facebook SDK. Once you have the Facebook SDK, you can go on developers on fb.gg on our developers hub to check what are the steps you can take to onboard on these features. You can always contact us, your Facebook team. We're always happy to help and understand how we can help you integrating these features in your game. And that's pretty much it from my end.
Thank you so much for that, guys. That was really informative, and it's quite interesting to see actually the journey with which Facebook gaming is traveling. That is super fascinating to me. I am a fan of the original Facebook gaming, but it's really kind of evolved massively since then. It's a super big deal, Alessio. So congratulations to you and your team. A couple of questions we've got anyway to kick us off. How is the new login for gaming experience changing with the upcoming iOS 14 requirements?
Okay, it's not changing, as in what we did with iOS 14 is we were rolling out on SDK 9.0 these two different versions of login, and the same thing will happen for gaming login. So whether if you're a game, let's say, login will be gaming login. So nothing really changes. Whatever happens from SDK 9.0 on, that's what will happen as well for gaming login. So it's a very easy transition.
Super, thank you. And another question is, will existing logged in users be logged out when the integration gets set up in the game?
No, thankfully, no. That was a point that we spent a lot of time on, and as Jit was mentioning before, we were able to make this transition as smooth as possible. So users are not they don't need to authenticate again once your game transitions to gaming login. So again, a very smooth transition also for users.
Thank you. We've got a few more questions if you've got the time. Dan says, I have a few word-based games, so it would be good to find partner clubs in the same country. Is that possible? So that's with word-based games.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting question. I think partner clubs is I don't know if it's a trademark of season 21, but I get the point. So I think the best way, but I'm just brainstorming here, I think would be interesting to potentially link the group. I imagine you would have specific language-based groups on Facebook, so you could integrate those within the friend finder and the player invites flow. So a person will join the group of that specific country, the country you're playing in for the game. And then from there, you can, invite people that are part of the group and, play, most likely talk the same language.
Great. And then another question that we have is, will we be able to do extensions like on Twitch?
As I mentioned, that's the dream. That's one of in our bucket list of things that we're working on. I don't have an ETA on when this will be possible, but that's definitely something that we're working towards.
Great, thank you. What do you think some of the pain points are that Facebook gaming is able to solve for both indie developers and maybe more professional developers that can't be solved by other distribution platforms? That's me being nosy, by the way.
I think the most, as a gamer myself, I think the most the thing I struggle when trying new games is like, in those first days is trying to connect with people. Otherwise, the experience in most of the cases is pretty pale, right? So adding those people, having those connections, and being able to create that community really adds up something else to the game. And when you're relying only on your network of how to connect people, I think it can be very cumbersome, very tough for a single game to basically create a social graph. So it's very interesting. I think what the easiness, how, I don't know if that's a word, but like how easy it is to transition to integrate with this game and tap into this gigantic audiences of gamers that are so entrenched with each other. The groups, and as I mentioned, people are already jumping on and off the game, from the game to the group, to create this community. So being able to quickly with minimal coding required, to being able to build these bridges between games and players, games, and communities, it's the best. I think is the best advantage.
So in the advent of like Roblox and Facebook Oculus, do you see like there's a convergence point around the metaverse with how we will use community to develop these game ideals, if you like, moving forwards in the game industry, where the player becomes the kind of master of their own destiny, if you like? Do you see that happening? Do you see that convergence?
I really hope that happens sooner than later. Is like,
yeah, me too.
I'm an Oculus player myself, and
me too.
There's a lot of games. Player one is like, there's the games that are already moving towards that direction. I think there's let's say not a blocker, but like we need to we need for the technology to be the guiding wind with 5G and the stronger devices. We've heard these elements a lot of times, but I think once we tip the technological kind of turning point, all these experience, then the limit is just imagination, like what the developers around will be able to ship into fantastic games. But definitely, I think like from World of Warcraft to all the games that we're seeing right now, the kind of metaverse is already there. We just need some kind of technological bits and pieces to be added to that to make it super immersive.
What a brilliant point to end on. Thank you so much, Alessio, and thank you to Jithin
Thanks,
as well
everyone.
for
Thanks,
taking part.